31 goals in 10 games, a manager potentially feeling the pressure already, crazy late drama and shocks throughout, the Premier League is back, and what an opening weekend we were treated to. Yes, the Premier League is back, and to celebrate one of the best leagues in the world returning, this season I'm going to be hosting my own Premier League recap show where we discuss all the games together and talk about all the big talking points as well. Throughout the series, I'll be asking you guys to get involved in the comment section and with YouTube polls as well, so we can talk about all the highs and lows throughout the Premier League season, and everyone can give their own opinions on what will certainly be a very dramatic year with much to debate. And if you're new to the channel, then please do click the subscribe button as well, as I'll be uploading this series every single game week, and of course I'll be uploading some more football chat videos as well. So do let me know what you guys think about this series. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. It's the first time I've done it. It should be a lot of fun. Without further ado, let's get straight to it and discuss the first game week in the Premier League. So let's start off with the champions Chelsea, and Antonio Conte's boys played host to Burnley on the opening weekend this season, where most people were predicting, despite the loss in the Community Shield, this would be a pretty comfortable 3 points for Conte's boys, but instead it was far from it. Yes, Burnley did not read the script, and Sean Dyche's boys came to Stamford Bridge and played out of their skin and picked up an amazing 3-2 victory on the first game of the Premier League season. Absolutely no one saw it coming. They only scored 13 away goals last season. They scored 3 in the first half of the first game of the Premier League season. But of course, it is worth noting this game was fueled by controversy, and it hinged on a major decision inside the first half when Gary Cahill was sent off for a very, very debatable red card. Very few people in the ground at the time thought Craig Pawson was going to give a red card to Gary Cahill. Most people thought it would be a yellow card, but he did go over the ball. It was late, it was ill-timed, he was just a few yards away from the referee. And in 2017, when you do that, you always run the risk of getting a red card produced. Many people think a yellow would have sufficed, but I'm not so sure. So for the very first hot topic, I'm going to ask you guys in the comment section down below and let you guys have your call. Was it a red card or was it a yellow card? Let me know with the YouTube polls as well. Because to be honest, I still don't know. You know, it's now Monday. I still can't decide whether it was a red card or yellow card. It was so debatable. It really was a difficult decision. I feel as though a yellow could have sufficed, but I can also see just why the referee felt the need to give a red card. After the red card, Burnley had a decision to make. Either stick to their game plan or start attacking a man disadvantaged Chelsea. They went for the latter, and fortune favoured the brave. They scored 3 first half goals with Sam Vokes bagging a double. The Stephen Ward strike was fantastic, but the marking for the third goal in particular was awful. Chelsea lost their discipline in the first half. In the second half though, you've got to give Chelsea credit. They came out of the blocks flying, and despite trailing by 3 and having a man light as well, they kept on believing they could still get something from the game. And once Morata came on for Batshuayi, they looked a completely different team. Batshuayi was really ineffective in this game. I don't know why he started. I think even Chelsea fans don't know why he started, to be honest, because Morata clearly did change the game when he was introduced. He started stretching the Burnley backline. He started to attack them, being direct, and he can cope with him. He scored the first goal, a lovely diving header to get his Chelsea account up and underway on the opening day. And of course, he actually ruled out the second goal that Chelsea would have scored through Christensen by being in an offside position, but it showed willingness to score and be in those right areas. And the second goal also came from Morata as well, heading on the ball, flicking it on, and David Luiz running onto it and volleying it past Tom Heaton. Morata was sensational, but in the end it wasn't enough. Burnley held out for a 3-2 victory. It was a shocking start for the champions. No one saw it coming, but what a result for Burnley. Only 1 away win all season last year. They've already matched that this year on the opening day away at Premier League champions Chelsea. And of course, let's not forget the Fabregas dismissal as well for 2 yellow cards. The first of one, absolutely moronic. I have never understood why players sarcastically applaud the referee. I mean, what are you expecting is going to happen? So really, disciplinary problems cost Chelsea in the first game, but of course it was full of controversy, no doubt about it, and an incredible start to the Premier League season for the champions. I think they'll be fine in the end. I'm pretty confident they will be fine, but it is worth noting their squad is extremely thin, and I really feel for Chelsea fans, I do, because last season, of course, you saw how well they played in the Premier League, winning the title, doing so well, getting to the FA Cup final as well, but of course they weren't in the Champions League last season. This year they are, and with such a thin squad, I feel for Conte as well. I don't think he's had the backing from the board. I think they need more bodies, they need more strength in depth, and unless they get that, it could be a season of quite a bit of struggle. I think they'll be okay, but it's going to be a very interesting final 2 weeks in the transfer window. What are Chelsea going to do? Because they need to bring in more bodies. But of course, let's not take anything away from Burnley as well. A fantastic way to start the season for Sean Dyche's boys. Only 1 away win all of last season. This year, straight off the bat, that, picking up those 3 points away against the champions. Great start. For Chelsea, not so much, but again, I'm sure they'll be fine. So one game down, lots of drama, lots of talking points, and lots of goals as well. Second game, Arsenal versus Leicester. What was that like? So the first game of the season on a Friday night for the first time ever, Arsenal playing host to Leicester in a game where, just like the Chelsea one, lots of goals, lots of drama, not quite as much controversy, but still so much to talk about. It was such a topsy-turvy affair, and Arsenal's problems were once again laid bare for all to see. They just can't defend, particularly balls into the box. That's a real problem for Arsene Wenger's boys. But one thing they can do is outscore the opposition. And really, that was where the game was won. Just like Morata for Chelsea, Lacazette also hit the ground running for his club as well, scoring with his second touch of the game inside the first couple of minutes. The lead didn't last long though. 3 minutes later, Okazaki equalised for Leicester. Then Vardy put them in front in the game, totally shocking everyone at the Emirates 29 minutes in. And then just before the break, Danny Welbeck scored for Arsenal to make it 2-2 in a thrilling first half where neither side was capable of keeping the ball out the back of the net. 11 minutes after the restart, Jamie Vardy bagged his brace to fire Leicester in front for the second time in the game, but this game hinged on 2 substitutions, one from Arsene Wenger, one from Craig Shakespeare, which really cost Leicester the game and enabled Arsenal to get the win. In the 67th minute, Arsene Wenger threw on Olivier Giroud and Aaron Ramsey, who scored the final 2 goals for the Gunners, to give them the win, taking off Holding and Elneny, who hadn't played very well. But those substitutions weren't the bizarre ones. The bizarre ones came 8 minutes before time. With 8 minutes to go, Craig Shakespeare took off midfielder Matty James for new striker Kelechi Iheanacho, with the possibility and the potential, I'm sure, of scoring goals on the break to wrap up the 3 points. But it left them a little bit more exposed for the middle of the park. They had less numbers to help back on defence, and in the end, Arsenal capitalised. About a minute afterwards, Aaron Ramsey fired in the equaliser for Arsenal. And then a couple of minutes later, Arsenal won the game for Olivier Giroud heading in a corner as they collected the 3 points with a 4-3 scoreline. Why Craig Shakespeare took off Matty James for Iheanacho, I don't know. They were holding on to the 3 points, they were doing enough, they were still leading and looking pretty, and then it totally cost them. Arsenal deserved the win, no doubt about it, but they did have defensive problems throughout the game, which we've been seeing for the past, well, any number of seasons really, which they will need to address. I thought Rob Holding in particular was really poor, but the substitutions from Arsene Wenger, he deserves a lot of praise for those. You know, bringing on Giroud, bringing on Ramsey, they didn't need to have Holding and Elneny on that pitch when, of course, Leicester weren't really having the ball and looking to attack too many times anyway. So they brought on Giroud, they brought on Ramsey, it helped them win the game. But again, for Leicester, you know, they did well to be leading twice in this game away at the Emirates, but I feel Craig Shakespeare totally got it wrong with that substitution. It really cost them in the end. They could have at least got a point had Matty James stayed on the pitch. Instead, taking him off for Iheanacho, I'm pretty sure if he had the chance to go back in time, he wouldn't do that again. For Arsenal though, despite the defensive problems, once again, going forward, they looked an absolute threat. Really tough for the opposition defence to deal with. Arsenal will be fine this season. You know, last season, of course, dropping out of top 4 for the first time. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think they'll go straight back into the top 4. They've got a good enough team to do that. When going forward, they are such a threat. And yes, of course, defensively, they're always a little bit worried. Cech has not been the same for a very long time. He's not the goalkeeper they thought they were buying from Chelsea in his first 2 years pre-head injury. He's totally different now. But either way, I'm sure Arsenal will be fine. It was just a case of defensively not being good enough. So they just thought, we'll score more goals than you. And in the end, they did. 4-3 the final score. What a great way to start the season. Third game we'll discuss, Crystal Palace playing host to Huddersfield at Selhurst Park. And the drama just doesn't stop. I'm going to need to take a lot of water breaks throughout this because I'm telling you, there's just too much. There's just too much drama to talk about. With Huddersfield Town coming up from the Championship, most people predict, just like me, that they'll be going straight back down and getting relegated. And a lot of pundits predict as well they'll be finishing in 20th place with the wooden spoon. It didn't really start off that way though, did it? Huddersfield came to Selhurst Park, they had a game plan, they executed, and they were sensational. The one big compliment that everyone gave Huddersfield last year in the Championship was that David Wagner had them playing such a high energy game, and they really were giving 110% week in, week out. They started off the season with that exact same philosophy, and in the end, they got their reward. The one thing the pundits were talking about, and I think many picked up on this as well, is the fact that Crystal Palace this season with new manager Frank de Boer want to play a possession-based style of football. But of course, Crystal Palace aren't built on possession-based style of football. Now, they want to reinvent themselves, and that's all good, and you know, props to them for doing that. But they're going to have to get to grips with it as soon as possible, because a 3-0 defeat at home to start off with is not encouraging whatsoever against Huddersfield Town. They didn't look comfortable, they didn't look right on the ball, and again, the Huddersfield keeper paper was on fire. I think Palace deserved at least a goal. A 3-0 scoreline didn't really reflect accurately the performance from either side. Having said that, take nothing away from Huddersfield. A fantastic opening day win. No one would have thought they'd win by 3-0, but it was an amazing start for David Wagner's side. And, you know, it's going to be a tough season. It's going to be a long season. I don't think many people are expecting them to be winning these sort of games and having those sort of results and performances throughout the entire course of the season, but what a great start. Props to them. No one gave them a chance. I didn't give them a chance. I'd always hold my hands up and accept it, but I got to say, they were fantastic. I think Palace will be okay if they do get to grips with the style of football Frank de Boer wants to play, but they've got to learn quickly, because in this Premier League, you can't leave it too late, continuing to struggle, because you will get punished. Watford Liverpool next at Vicarage Road in a Saturday lunchtime kickoff, and I mean, honestly, I'm not over exaggerating. What an opening weekend in the Premier League. Surely one of the best ever. So this game, of course, finished 3-3, and it really was dramatic. It, of course, had some really late drama and also some more controversy as well. But the one thing that was evident throughout the entire game is that so much of the focus was still on a player not even involved in the team, Philippe Coutinho. Now, we're doing my own video on the Coutinho saga very soon, but I really do feel as though the Liverpool players were slightly affected by it. So much of the focus was on that and not on their performance. But of course, we'll just be talking about their performance and Watford's as well. And for Liverpool, I thought going forward, I got to say, they were absolutely fantastic and such a threat. Every single time they went on the offensive, they looked like scoring. That front three of Mane, Firmino, and now Mohamed Salah as well. I mean, that is going to be a very, very tough task for any defence in the Premier League to deal with. Of course, it was those three that scored the 3 goals to Liverpool as well. The first goal coming through Mane, a nice little move. Second one was Firmino tucking away a penalty. And then the third goal was Salah scoring on his Premier League debut for Liverpool when Firmino lobbed Gomez, who came out, and the Egyptian tucked it home from 2 yards. It was just a fantastic display from those three up top. And I've got to say, any defence is going to be terrified facing them, because they just look absolutely fantastic, and all three of them can finish. You know, all three of them can create for others as well. Liverpool are going to score a lot of goals this season with that front three. They look so deadly. However, as good as Liverpool were going forward, we have to talk about their defence as well, and we saw the same problems over and over and over again for Jurgen Klopp come back to haunt them in this game as well. They just cannot defend set pieces. I think I read somewhere they've conceded 25 goals since Jurgen Klopp first came to Anfield from set pieces, and only Southampton and Stoke have conceded more. It's just not good enough. They really do lack a leader to head balls away, and you just can't be a serious title threat when you're so fragile from set pieces. They just don't seem to know what their roles are and how to get the ball away. Zonal marking, I think, got exposed. Okaka-Chuka, of course, scored the first goal, powering in a header. But of course, let's get to the third goal. That was the really controversial one. Of course, the second goal was quite an unlucky bounce. You couldn't really do much about that. And the third one also had a bit of an unlucky bounce to it as well. But you got to say, once again, just not good enough and not commanding enough getting rid of set pieces. Wijnaldum, I think, was for the third goal, ducking out of a header, which would have got the danger away and would have seen Liverpool surely wrap up the 3 points. But the goal that was scored for the third goal, the equaliser one in stoppage time, was offside. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, at first, I didn't really get to see it in real time, but when you saw the replays, you could definitely see from the angle. Brito's, the Uruguayan centre-back, in front of Mignolet, was also in front of the man that struck the ball as well. He was offside. There's no doubt about it. The goal should not have stood. Liverpool should have claimed those 3 points. But the problem they have is they wouldn't have even been in that situation had they had real leaders taking charge of situations from set pieces and getting the balls clear. Yes, it was offside. Yes, they're unfortunate not to get the 3 points. No one will deny that. But again, it's the same old promise of Liverpool. Going forward, absolutely fantastic and almost unstoppable sometimes. But at the back, particularly from set pieces, they're just far too weak. But for Watford, let's give them some props. Very, very credible 3-3 draw and a good point on the opening day against a good Liverpool side as well. Defensively, you know, obviously not fantastic, but it's always going to be difficult defending against those 3 players. But going forward, I've got to say, Okaka looks like a real handful, I must admit. And Marco Silva, I thought, did an excellent job with Hull when coming in halfway through the season last year. They were dead and buried, it seemed, before he came in. They gave him a chance, at least, with a really solid home record. I'm excited to see what Marco Silva can do with Watford. Of course, they do have a habit of sacrificing managers far too early, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe Marco Silva can stay there for the long term and do something special with Watford. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. So we're now going to move on and discuss the final game of the 10 in the Premier League weekend, and what a performance it was from Jose Mourinho's Manchester United. There is so much talk about Manchester United this season, and rightfully so due to the squad they have, and after finishing in 6th place last season, quite disappointing in the league after the money they spent. This season they are tipped as one of the front runners to win the Premier League title alongside their Manchester rival City, and on the basis of that display you can see exactly why. Last season they dropped so many points at home, and that's one of the big reasons why they didn't finish in the top 4. But to start off with a 4-0 victory, they were fantastic from start to finish, and of course so many questions over Lukaku as well. Lacazette scored in his debut, Morata scored in his debut. Could Lukaku? Well, he scored twice. Brilliant performance from him. He looks the real deal straight away, and of course we already knew that. He's a Premier League proven goal scorer, and he just seems to get better. The whole team I thought played really well. A great display. Pogba as well is going to get so much more freedom this year as well, now that Matic is in the team. So for those of us that put him in the fantasy team, we know that this year he'll be contributing even more times when going forward in terms of goals and assists. He looked a handful as well when going forward and attacking. A really good display from him and the team as a whole. It was a great statement win. United wanted to make a statement, and they certainly did. It was a fantastic win, a really great display. And of course it's just one game. You know, we can't judge them completely on that. It's going to be a long season, no doubt, but 6th place last year wasn't good enough for Mourinho by his standards in the league at least. This season they want to compete for the title. They believe they can, and with that squad and those sort of performances, they'll have no problem being right up there come the end of the year. As for West Ham, not a great start obviously to lose 4-0, but it was always going to be tough. You're away at Old Trafford, it's never going to be easy, especially with the team they've got this season as well. I'm sure over time they'll gel. They've got some good experience in there, model pros in Zabaleta and Joe Hart, and of course you've got Hernandez, the former United striker as well. I'm sure they'll be fine in time. It was going to be a tough game for them, but what a great start for United. Fantastic display, and I'm looking forward to watching them quite a lot this season. So moving swiftly on then to the other Manchester team in action in the Premier League on the opening weekend. Manchester City taking on Brighton away at the Amex Stadium in what was a very interesting game, but a win in the end for Pep's boys. Brighton tried very hard in this game to contain Manchester City and stop them from breaking clear and getting the chances and the goals they needed. City looked very dangerous though. They played the 3-5-2, and of course they spent so much money on fullbacks this season to play as part of that 5 in midfield, and I mean really you can see exactly why they spent the money. Kyle Walker down the right, Danilo started on the left in this game, not Mendy of course, but they were really good. You can see them trying to stretch out the opposition playing that way as well, and in the end it was a case of patience paying off for Pep's boys. They had chances in the first half. Obviously, Matty Ryan, the Australian goalkeeper, making a really good save, and then Gabriel Jesus putting the follow-up effort onto the post in the first half. The Brazilian striker also had a goal disallowed in the first half as well for handball, in what was a very interesting incident where Gabriel Jesus also got a booking for that, which I thought was quite harsh. But in the second half, they eventually wore down Brighton. Over time, they just started to get tired, the hosts. And really, mistakes begin to creep into your game over the course of 90 minutes. And in the Premier League, that's the one thing Brighton are going to find out. When they're taking on a side like Manchester City, over time, they are going to eventually wear them down by keeping hold of the ball and continuing to attack. Eventually, they just could not contain any longer, and City got the breakthrough through Aguero. With him and Jesus starting up top together, I mean, that is going to be such a fantastic attack for Manchester City with the supporting cast as well, because you just know they're going to score bags of goals this season with those two in the team. Aguero got the first, and then the second goal came later with Lewis Dunk heading past Ryan, who probably could have done a little bit better for the goal, but really it was just one of those where they lost the ball, they lost possession, and in the end they lost the game through those mistakes. So 2-0 the final score. City definitely deserved the win, no doubt about it, but Brighton, I thought, fair play to them. They really did contain. They tried so well to hold on, but in the end just didn't have the legs. Obviously it's going to be tough for Brighton this season to adapt to life in the Premier League, and I thought, to be fair to them, they did give themselves a really good go when trying to shut the door on City, but again it was the individual errors that cost them in the end. But as for Manchester City, just like United, one of the front runners to win the title, you can see why. Whenever they go forward they look so dangerous. Their attack is going to be so deadly. Gabriel Jesus and Aguero together this season, they can score 15-20 goals perhaps each this season in the City team. They're going to score a lot of goals this season and be a really fun watch. Great opening day victory for them. They got there in the end. A really good, patient victory. So now moving on to the side who are still yet to make any signings in the Premier League this season, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. A winning start from Mauricio Pochettino's boys as Spurs beat Newcastle away at St James's Park. 2-0 the final score in this one, but it's such an interesting game because Newcastle were doing okay, and then just a few minutes after the restart, Jonjo Shelvey got himself sent off inexplicably for standing on Dele Alli. I don't know what he was thinking. About a quarter of an hour later, Dele Alli then put them in front, and then the Welsh left-back Ben Davies wrapped it up with 20 minutes to go. But for Jonjo Shelvey, I hope he gave all of his teammates a serious apology in the dressing room afterwards, because that really cost them the game. They definitely could have got something from that game, not just a point, maybe even all three perhaps, had he not got himself sent off and put his team in a really precarious position. A stupid, unforced error, totally unnecessary, and it cost them any chance of getting something on the opening day of the season. For Poch though, a really good display from his Spurs side to start off with. Of course, no summer signings. I've discussed this in a video I've done already, why they haven't made any signings at all. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, last season, of course, finishing second place, doing very well, back-to-back finishes in the top four. They're going for it for a third straight year. They've got a good team. They really do. And again, they play so well together. They clearly enjoy being each other's company. A good display, a good start for them. And we'll see what they do against Chelsea on the weekend as well. I'm very intrigued to see how both teams approach that battle based on their different starts. So just 3 games to go then, and we shall start off with what was a dream return for Wayne Rooney to Goodison Park as Everton beat Mark Hughes' Stoke by a 0-0. And of course, he was the guy that won the game. It was a really wonderful moment. For anyone that's watched Rooney throughout his career for Everton United, now back to Everton as well, to see him score on his home return was just a fantastic sight. It was Calvert-Lewin down the right, whipping in the cross, and Rooney started off the move, charging into the box, getting on the end of it, and nodding it past the keeper with a lovely header. It was just a brilliant goal, and the celebration was fantastic as well. You could see the passion and the raw emotion. People forget this is his boyhood club. He loves this team so much, and you can see how much it meant to him. It was a wonderful moment and a fantastic header. Having said that, it wasn't all one-way traffic. Stoke actually played quite well in this game, and it wasn't a great deal of difference between the sides. And on another day, they might have left with a point in this game, potentially even all 3. But Rooney's goal separating the sides, and again, it was wonderful to see. It really was. I'm sure Stoke will be fine. You know, of course, last season did very well. They've been solidly comfortable under Mark Hughes since he arrived at the Britannia Stadium, now known as the Bet365 Stadium, I think. But I'm sure Stoke will be fine. It was a decent performance enough from them on the opening day, but there's the sides separated by a wonderful moment from Wayne Rooney. It was lovely to see, and a lovely goal. So moving on to the penultimate game of the 10, and once again it was another 1-0 scoreline, and once again another header that separated the sides, and once again another debutant that got the goal. Higazi, the Egyptian centre-half, giving West Brom a 1-0 victory over Bournemouth at the Hawthorns as they start off on the front foot under Tony Pulis. Yes, the set-piece specialist doing it once again. Chris Brunt with that wonderful left foot, whipping it across to the centre from a free kick, and Higazi rising highest and heading it past debutant goalkeeper Asmir Begovic. For the Cherries, they rarely threatened in the game, it appeared, and West Brom may not have been at their very best, but once again it shows the importance of being a threat from those set-piece plays. A good delivery, a strong header, and 1-0, the only score. And the final game was the only goalless draw of the weekend as well. Southampton 0, Swansea 0 at St Mary's Stadium, where the Saints had all the bark but no bite. Lots of good general play, lots of chances created, but lacked the clinical finish that would have won them the game. Southampton played very well. Their general play appeared to be very good, but the one problem they had is they lacked the clinical finish to win them the game. They had more of the ball, much more of the ball. They had more of the chances, much more of the chances, but the same amount of goals as the opposition, 0, because they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. They controlled the game, controlled the possession battle as you would expect. They took so many attempts and had so many shots, but the problem they had was they just weren't clinical. They wasted so many good opportunities, failed to score even the once that would have won them the game against a side who couldn't even register a shot on target in the entire 90 minutes. Gabbiadini continues his goal drought for Southampton. He got off to such a great start when he first arrived midway through last year, but has really struggled in the last few games he's played for the club, carrying in to the new season. But for Swansea, despite not registering a shot on target, they did have a couple of good chances for the lone striker Tammy Abraham on loan from Chelsea, where if he took them, they could have won the game totally against a run of play. But let's not kid ourselves here. Paul Clement and his side will certainly take a goalless draw, a clean sheet, and a solid point on the opening day day of the weekend. Last season, I tipped them to go down. They were in such a mess for the first half of the season last year. This year, things could be better if they sort out the Sigurdsson and Llorente drama, though. So much of the focus right now on that club is whether those two are leaving, and of course, for good reason as well. Those two combined for such a high percentage of all the goals that Swansea scored in the Premier League last year. Replacing those two is going to be really difficult. But right now, people don't know where they're going or they're staying, and it's just creating problems and unwanted drama. For the Saints, though, I'm sure Pellegrino, with his first league game in charge of the club, will still think there were positives to take from that game, if not all 3 points. They controlled the game well in terms of the possession, they created far more chances, and if they were just a little bit more clinical, they certainly would have got the 3 points. So that's that. What a fantastic start to the new Premier League season with so much drama over the course of the opening weekend, goals galore, shocking moments, and a really, really great way to start the new season. Thank you for watching the first episode of the Premier League Recap Show, guys. If you enjoyed it, then please do leave a like. And of course, don't forget as well, if you're new to the channel, please do click the subscribe button for more regular football videos. And of course, I'll be doing this series after every single game week in the Premier League as well. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Much love to you all, and I'll see you for the next episode very soon. Bye.